Hey, welcome to sunny sunshine, Canyon. There's 3 feet of snow outside. So here we are. Okay, today we're going to talk about like hip drop. Okay, and we're going to break it down into what it is, how to solve it, why you might want to solve it, how to think about it, because it can be quite a significant problem, and it's basically a problem that almost 99% of runners have, and that includes you. Now, I used to have a video called The $1 Million Move, and I took it down out of frustration because people that I knew very, very well couldn't do the $1 Million Move were saying, I got this, because superficially you thought you got it, and then they thought they were fine, and then they just carried on going, and then basically buried a dysfunction deeper. So we had like people with stress fractures in their back saying, oh, I can totally do the $1 Million Move, thumbs up, and meanwhile there's no chance that you can. So without stirring the pot of controversy, let's just talk about what this hip drop means. Okay, so typically a lot of people might view it as Trendelenburg gait, where you have a weak glute medius and you dropped into this position, and then you'll strengthen your glutes, and you'll do band work and whatever, and single leg work, and hopefully try and balance out that asymmetry or strengthen the one side up. And if that's going to work for you, it would have worked for you. After a couple of weeks, if it's not working for you, you don't need more complex, more difficult things to do, more elaborate drills. You need to probably wind it up. And this is what this movie is about, trying to solve this from a deep place. 100%, if you're not sure whether your hips function properly when you run, they don't. Okay, 100%. Okay, people whose hips function properly aren't watching this video. And there's very, very few of them. And they know and they trust their body, and they're not looking for answers. If you have headaches, back pain, nerve pain, chronic injuries, you go from one injury to another, you believe that injuries are part of the game, you're frustrated with your running, you're working on drills, you're worried about your technique, you don't know whether your forefoot or rear foot should land, if you have a whole lot of sort of not sure, then 100% this video is for you, because we want to get you a place where you have a deep sense of knowing and trust in your body. Okay, so that's the preamble. It's a bit long, I know, but it's free. Right, so once we're running and we sort of caught a little bit behind the hip, especially if it's on one side. Remember, a lot of people, what they'll do is actually tighten up and do it on the other side too. And now you're tight, but looking symmetrical, and you move around your hips. And so you don't want that. That's why the prelude. So when you are asymmetrical, at least you know you just have to sort of more or less fix one side to come out of it. A lot of people tighten it down and they have the illusion that you're now symmetrical. But what will happen is, as you let go of that tension, you'll become imbalanced, and then you sort of undo with 2 twists, as it were. Okay, so if you're wearing orthotics, leg length discrepancies, all of the above, this is for you. Okay, so how to solve this? One is, this is a whole body posture problem. You can look at it as like my hip dropped and my glute medius is weak. A lot of people are reframing this to glute max, because if we inject Botox into the glute medius, you don't get hip drop. But if you inject Botox into the nerve that goes to the glute max, you do get hip drop. So think of it as your glute max holds you up in this position. But watch my body. To get from this position up, out, and round is a completely different body shape. And in running, you shouldn't be in this position in the first place. Okay? You shouldn't make that shape. Running's about making shapes. You should be here. So what does that mean? Your head tilted, not neck, because you can do something like this with your neck on one side. Okay? If your head is over your standing foot, your running will immediately be better. Okay? And that implies a little bit of a side bend from the waist. Okay? And that means ear towards the ground. So head over foot will often get you out of this shape. Okay, not always, but head in the midline will pull you into this shape. If you try and keep your head still and you try and keep your hips still, you will go into this shape. If you're doing it symmetrically on both sides, doesn't make it right. If you're standing, $1 Million Move is stand, leg goes down, belly button turns towards prime. Most of you, 9 out of 10 of you watching this can't do what I just did. You'll do something like this and not this. To do this when you run can be really, really difficult. Okay, what you can't do is this and then fix it with your upper body. You have to be able to step your hip open. And so when we swing the rope, we're making the shape to get out of that problem. We're making the shape. And that's why we start talking about the sort of posterior chain work. Okay, your innominates, your iliums, okay, when you run, do a figure of 8, probably in a posterior pattern. In other words, they rotate back first, then you go forward, and then they go forward, but they're doing this. So learning to make that shape, might get you out of this quicker than anything else. Okay, so that's the shape. You can think about timing. This works really, really well for swimming. So if you're swimming and you kind of gallop, I like a bit of gallop in people's movement and running, if you're trying to sort these things out. But if you find like one side's really wonky, timing, but don't go staccato or metronome, 1, 2, 3, 4, that'll tighten you up and make you an uptight, anxious person. And you're gonna have to let go to make this shape. Tension, letting go. You open up, you let go into the shape. You should be smiling, laughing, opening up, open heart, having fun to make this shape. So don't do a metronome, but in swimming you can go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and counting like a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 will open your body up. The timing that you want to do to get out of this is go 1 and. Okay, so you land on the 1 and then you do something. So you go 1 and the and is head over foot, traveling forward, learning to extend. So you're not in this position, you're in this position. So you're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You might want to practice that walking. Okay, so from this side I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and have a sense of musicality and rhythm to it, because that's what running is all about. Not staccato. Right, other things that can make your hip drop onto this side is, you might, very commonly on the right side, our diaphragm's a little thicker, we're asymmetrical on the inside, with a big crus on the diaphragm, we drive in this pattern for reasons. We can have this shoulder down, this hip up, and then you're running in this pattern, and that can really be difficult to solve. We're solving it, I'm telling you how to solve it with all these different videos, but we can start to realize, okay, we actually have to sort of address this structure. And one of the things you want to do is release your diaphragm, okay, soft diaphragm that moves up and down, and release your pelvic floor. It's almost certainly when your diaphragm and your pelvic floor start working together, if you've got a twist in your diaphragm, you'll have a twist and asymmetry in your pelvic floor, and you might find you're really battling to move out of that twist. Okay, so rounding and arching, breathing in, opening up, and breathing out. Inhale, and make sure you're doing it this way around, not the other way around. So if you're stuck in a fright, if you fell on your butt once, maybe when you were born you smacked in the bum too hard and you went, eh, and then you got stuck in a fright. Okay, some people have the wind knocked out of them for whatever reason. Okay, so breathing in, breathing out, and work on diaphragm and pelvic floor moving up and down together. If you engage your core, if you tighten your hips, if you pull and tighten your pelvic floor, you're done. You're not going to get your way out of this. You have to have open heart, relaxed belly, and a pelvic floor that moves with your diaphragm, which is a whole nother thing, but work on that, okay? So that's centrally why you might have this big asymmetry. The other one is neural tension. When your neck twists, you twist, okay? So tight your neck, tight asymmetry. So that's why we do the neural and dural unwinding of your neck, and we do the big, gentle, soft flossing, because you might find that your nerve tree is actually twisted and putting you into a pattern that you don't like, and that's going to bully you and influence you. Remember, nerves are inflexible. We have to get them gliding and sliding through your body. Unwind your neck, unwind your sacrum. Okay, patterns of movement. You need, very importantly, everyone needs this, not just people that are trying to solve this, is you have to be able to get your one leg away at a time. So in this position, my hips, okay, this is my left, this is my right, my hip's going to fall, this hip's going to fall towards the ground on the left, and this femur's going to go that away. And you see this, me rotating that way. And you have to be able to do this. You might want to turn your tail under, so rotate your pelvis backwards, knee goes away, hip floats forward, and knees tracking towards the roof, and no sense of muscular engagement. Athletes, you're going to bridge, you're going to clamp, you're going to try and push up, you're going to activate. Okay. Slowly, softly shake all the tension out of your body. No sensation of muscular effort. Turn your tail under, knee goes away, hip floats forward. And you have to be able to do that softly and smoothly on one side. Okay, my hip's going to fall towards this side. I'm going to tuck my tail under initially. Remember, when we're running, your
ilium probably rotates backwards first, and then you travel over and then it goes forward. So ilium's gonna go backwards, forwards. Okay, so rotate your pelvis backwards, knee goes away, front of your hip opens up, knee tracks. Okay, you have to be able to make this shape soft.
There's a lot of people that you almost have to treat that open, and you're so restricted in your hips you can't do. And then when you get back up to standing, okay, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Hip turns posteriorly, knee goes away, I turn towards my lead leg. This hip is higher than that hip. Okay, that's the $1 million move. Look how much my chest moves. When your hips move like this, your shoulders will rotate. Where's he coming from? Hips. Hips. This is totally connected, totally quiet. So when you look at yourself running, this back needs to be quiet. Okay, so you need that hip function. So breath needs to be sorted out, sacrum function needs to be sorted out, head over foot, neural tension unwound, diaphragm and pelvic floor healthy and clean and working together. And then you can practice, again, here and in a runner we practice walking backwards, because that really helps you make that same shape. Okay, and then obviously strengthen your hips with tire walking will really give you a sense of structure and hip and strength underneath your hips. The important thing about this is you want to, I can do YouTube videos, me. So someone that has the time, effort, would edit this out. And I'm sorry, this is my editing. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so, oh, and free sternum, because your sternum and your diaphragm is moved together. Okay, so for you got a lot of things to work on. Stay persistent. You're going to find, so, oh God, I don't want to be too controversial. Okay, if you have a big asymmetry in your running and your hip drops and looks like this, okay, you're not likely, and you've done a little bit of glute strengthening work in gym, like just the standard stuff, you're not likely to solve this problem in gym or with strength or with rehab. Okay, I know it sounds bizarre. You're going to solve it like I just explained it to you now. And the reason is because a lot of the work is with your knee in front of your hip. Okay, so when you do step ups, knee in front of hip. If you're doing a resisted band work, it's knee in front of hip. If you're doing bridge work, you're going from knee in front of hip to extension. This is standing, knee behind hip, creating space with knee behind hip. Okay, so there's almost, you can do the awesomizer, so turn, step, and we'll get into that shape. So doing the awesomizer with your short side down, with that leg back, so if this is my droppy side, or this is my bunched up waist side, doing the awesomizer, this leg down, standing, and then putting yourself in this position, getting really, really comfortable in this position, will help you get out of not running like this to this. And remember, it's a big deal, it's not a small deal. It's a big thing, it's a big concept. You need to work a lot on it until you go, oh, totally, I understand, and then you can defend it. So what happens is once your hips are really functioning well, then typically you have a sense of knowing, trusting your body, trusting your running, your heart opens, your breath opens, you're smiling, laughing, you love running, and you start defending your running and you start enhancing it rather than, I'm not sure, am I doing it right? Seeking, adding, doing all the things, making your life more and more complex in the hope that somehow this sorts out, okay? So I know I'm talking a lot, but open up, stand, create space, length, persist. It might take you 2-3 years to get this right. If you are battling and stuck, you then leave a comment and let me know if you can't do that one hip away and the one hip away. Because if you can't solve that, you'll never solve this. And it's not likely to be a pure strength problem. It's likely to be some coordination with stuck tissue, or you've got 36 muscles between my hands. If I put my hands on my hips, okay, put my hands on my hips, 36 muscles. Sometimes they can really get bunched or tight or locked and cause big asymmetries. Maybe you banged your tailbone and whacked it skew, or you got some sort of problem that you need to resolve it at that level. And then just a little bit of glute health work, let's say, you should be fine. If you're doing a varied comprehensive strength and rehabilitation or movement program, things should be switching on, firing up, everything should be a go, it should be uncomplicated. Okay, if you can't get this out of your running, it's not some super duper extra technique or more strength or more standing on one leg or more balance on one side or more glute medius or more complicated glute medius exercises. It's back it up and solve it more centrally, and make very sure that you're getting the fundamentals, which is you're rounding and arching, you know how to move your hips synchronously, you got your head over your foot, you've explored posterior chain and anterior chain. I strongly suggest you practice walking backwards and then strengthen it walking forwards with a tie, and things should just all fall into place. Okay, please, if you've experienced the difference between the bad and the good, and if you've listened this far, leave a comment below and say, hey, I totally got it. It was life-changing, because it's not some sort of small iffy deal, it's a big deal. And we really want to get as many people running competently as possible. So if you've had a positive experience, let me know, and also like share, say, hey, you know, I battled for 6 years and then I finally figured this out, or 10 years or 20 years, or however long it took you to figure this out, or before and after stories. Okay, and then let me know if you're stuck. Take care, everyone. Move well. Have a wonderful day. Take care.